While on a hunting expedition near the lush forests of Bursa, the 35-year-old Sultan of the Ottomans fell off his horse and was severely paralyzed.
Oh! Oh! Guys, rise of the Ottoman Empire.
People woke up to another presumably uneventful day as the sounds of church bells echoed throughout the Roman capital. Suddenly, the sound of morning prayers was interrupted by otherworldly sounds that can only be described as large bangs. As the earth beneath them shook violently, military horns began sirening off in the distance.
Wait, they actually felt that? No way.
Then, the news of terror began sprinkling down the streets of the city. The full force of the Ottoman army had arrived at the gates of the Theodosian walls. After 20 years of internal strife and civil wars, the Ottoman resolve to seize Constantinople resumed again in full force. In this video, we will look at the 22 Ottoman Siege of Constantinople, as well as the perilous political tightrope the Osmanli regime was walking during this time. This video is made available for free thanks to our YouTube members and patrons.
Guys, I don't have that. I don't have that money. Ugh.
With the Ottoman interregnum coming to a close with the defeat and death of Musa Çelebi, the House of Osman entered into a period of rebuilding. Upon securing the Ottoman throne, the 27-year-old Sultan Mehmed
It blows my mind how the Ottomans, like the Byzantines, just kinda was just idle.
began
Like, I know they weren't
the ranks
idle, but they were kinda idle. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Positions of power who had supported his cause during the last decade. The leading groups that benefited from this restructuring in government were the Turkoman Ghazi warriors and notables of Anatolia, who had long been neglected during the years of the Thunderbolt, but had since regrouped around the new Sultan. It was these Turkomans who had made up the core of Mehmed's army during the wars of the last decade, and it would be they who were now to play a vital role in his government for the foreseeable future. The new Sultan also reaffirmed the Treaty of Gallipoli with the Byzantines and Genoese, as was his promise to Manuel II for his military assistance during his war effort against Musa. As a result of all these political developments, the formerly influential Kapikulu and Devshirme military and political classes were reduced in size and sidelined in the new Ottoman administration, as many of their Timar holdings were seized and redistributed by the state.
You know something that I've always wondered? How in the world did these games like Total War get accurate? Well, no, artwork. Yeah, artwork. Never mind. Very foolish of me to ask that question.
Settled at home, Mehmed turned his gaze eastward as he sought to establish Ottoman control over a war-torn Anatolia, a region which had, during the last decade, seen many of its settlements and pastures brutally ransacked. Not wanting
an American that is saying pasture. It's so weird whenever I hear an American say pasture. That's so weird.
To invoke the wrath of the Timurids as his father did with his speedy conquest of Anatolia during the 1390s, the Ottoman Sultan opted for a more subtle form of land expansion through vassalization. During the early months of 1414, the Ottoman Sultan...
The Timur... Bro... I don't care what anyone tell me, man. Timur, bro, that man, arguably the best of the best, bro. I think the only person that probably would be able to beat him is Alexander the Great, maybe. And that's a hard one, bro. And Napoleon. Timur definitely. I think Timur's better than Caesar. I'm not gonna lie. Timur definitely better than Caesar, bro. 100%. 100%. Is that, well, that's the bit. Guys. Give me your opinions. Cause I think Alexander the Great. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Alexander the Great would lose Timor. Cause he technically got defeated in India. Technically, I've heard some people say he didn't, and other people say no, he won, but he had to get more reinforcements. That's a whole different thing. But give me your opinions in the comments.
Led an army along the Aegean coast of the plateau, overwhelming the Turkic beyliks of the area in a single military campaign. The Sarukhan and Aydinid beyliks were officially annexed into the Ottoman realm, while Menteşe and the Gamianids were vassalized. The former ruler of the Aydinids, Junayd Bey, who had been a critical ally of both Suleiman Çelebi and Musa Çelebi during the interregnum, was forgiven for his past actions against Edirne and was given the vital governorship of Nicopolis. After re-establishing Ottoman rule in western Anatolia, Mehmed marched on the Jandarid Beylik of Esfendiya Bey, who had sided with Timur during the Battle of Ankara, and vassalized his state, in addition to the Beyliks of Janik along the Black Sea coast. In response to a failed Karamanid siege on Bursa while he was campaigning against Musa in the Balkans back in 1413, the Ottoman Sultan declared war. Wow! I just read this in the corner right here. That is wild! War against Mehmed II Bey at the start of 1415 as retribution for invading his lands. However, due to intense spring rains hampering his siege on Konya, Mehmed concluded a hasty peace with the Karamanid ruler, which saw him regain the towns of Agadir, Akşehir and Beyşehir back for the Sultanate. Returning to Edirne victorious, with much of Anatolia once again under the Ottoman fold, Mehmed began planning out military operations into the Balkans to reassert Muslim power projection into the region after many years of Ottoman military inactivity. First pushing deep into the decentralized principalities of Albania, Mehmed captured the regional towns of Vlora and Kruja, reaching the coast of the Adriatic by 1417. Ottoman raids deep into Bosnia, Morea and Transylvania also recommenced during this period, as the Sultan sought to please his Turkoman Ghazi warriors with the riches of the local region. Mehmed likewise launched a war against Wallachia, as its ruler, Mircea I, had been a critical ally of Musa during the interregnum, and thus had to be punished. The following hostility...
Nah, bro. Bro. Mehmed is... Oof. Mehmed. Alright, Mehmed. I see you. Damn. Mehmed is doing work. He's doing work right now. Golly. I respect it though. It's impressive. I'm not gonna lie.
Hostilities were short, as the ailing 60-year-old voivode wished to keep the peace with Edirne, and so signed a peace treaty that saw him ceding the crucial Danube fortress town of Juju and the region of Dobruja to Mehmed. In addition to territorial concessions, Wallachia also became an official vassal of Edirne, which compelled it to once again pay a yearly tribute to the Ottoman state. Better yet for Mehmed, by 1418, Mircea of Wallachia, the man who had dealt 2 defeats to Bayezid within a year and had been a thorn in Ottoman expansion for over 20 years, had died of natural causes. It was also during this period that the newly emerging Ottoman fleet began conducting major naval operations in the wider region for the first time in its history.
Okay.
Since the end of the interregnum, many Ottoman coast...
Yo, I gotta react to Venice and like the Italian wars. That reminds me, I gotta react to that probably next week. I'm probably gonna drop like a Italian wars reaction, because I would definitely love to learn more about that. A bit unrelated, but I say that because this reminds me of how the Venetian Navy and the Ottoman Navy were like at it for a while, man.
Settlements and merchant ships in the Aegean had been harassed by various corsair groups stationed in the many island colonies of the Venetians. As a result, Edena began its own military operations against Venice as a newly built galley fleet headed by Cali Bey raided the Venetian islands of Andros, Paros, Milos and Evia between 1414 and 1415. As hostilities between the two sides escalated, in 1416, the combined fleets of the Ottomans and Venice met at the mouth of the Dardanelles Strait, which saw the latter crushing the fleet of the former in open battle. The engagement that was later to be known as the Battle of Gallipoli had resulted in the death of Cali Bey and the capture of much of the new Ottoman fleet and its crew by Venice.
Wow!
Manuel II mediating the peace talks in Constantinople, an official peace treaty between Edena and Venice was to be concluded in 1419, which saw both sides agreeing to the transfers of war prisoners in return for Mehmed recognizing Venice's overseas possessions in the eastern Mediterranean. Unfortunately for Edena, the loss of the war ensured naval superiority for the Republic of Venice in the Aegean Sea for decades to come, as the remains of the Ottoman fleet sailed back into the harbour of Gallipoli. In addition to military developments abroad, a series of political...
This is literally what I literally just said, like the Ottomans and the Venetians were going at it, man.
Developments at home would consume a large portion of Sultan Mehmed I's reign. During the Ottoman Sultan's restructuring of personnel in his government at the beginning of his rule, many statesmen who had supported the wrong son of Bayezid were exiled across the Ottoman realm. One of these exiled men was Musa Çelebi's Karayaska, or chief military judge, Sheikh Bedreddin. Being of mixed Muslim...
I swore he said, I don't want to say the swear word, but bro, I swear, if you're from like a freaking Commonwealth country or like an English country, you know what I'm talking about. I swore he said freaking SHITE. I swore he said that.
Muslim and Christian parentage, the military judge had gained a mass following for his utopian, syncretic vision for the Ottoman Sultanate. Like his views on the legal equality of all followers of the Abrahamic religions and the communal ownership of property of all peoples. Bedreddin's views spread like wildfire around the Balkans and Anatolia during the years after the Battle of Ankara, as the vast majority of ordinary Ottoman citizens had been plagued with economic instability and war for the last 13 years, and were thus unsatisfied with the central government in Edena.
Bro, I swear, when you have like nothing else better to do, bro, like of course you would actually sit down and listen to something like this, dude. Like I always think about this all the time. What do people do back in this time period? Like I know they would work, you know, do chores, make sure they have food, but like aside from that, like how in the world do these people bypass time, bruh? You know what I mean? Like, bro, we take entertainment today for granted so much, bro. Like I always just think to myself, if I'm living in this time period, medieval times, or like kinda early modern period ish, this isn't really like modern period yet, but like kind of before. This is still medieval actually, but like somewhere, because human technology was kind of stagnant until recently in history, like the past 100 years, 200 years, but in the past 100 years, really, human technology have just skyrocketed like mad, and we've just I don't know. But it seems like humans are gonna be stagnant for a while again, for the foreseeable future. That could be wrong, frankly speaking. But based on what I'm seeing, it really does seem like humans are gonna be stagnant for a while. However, we unless more funds and more interest goes into space, and we somehow are able to like use resources, which I doubt we'll be able to do that for a long time. I do believe that human technology is going to be stagnant. And many reasons, but still, how in the world would people back then like live to bypass their time? Like, of course they'll sit here and listen. What else do they have to do aside from work? You know what I mean?
These ongoing political developments were a major internal threat to the Sunni-identifying Ottoman state, which saw itself as the authority on political and religious matters within its holdings. Travelling from Nicaea to the Jandarid Beylik, then Wallachia to Ottoman Bulgaria, the former chief military judge preached his popular message to the peoples of the regions, which soon sparked a full-scale civil rebellion by 1416. In a short period of time, Smyrna, Manisa, and the regions of Dobruja and Sarukan had revolted against Ottoman rule, which saw tens of thousands of Muslims and Christian peasants, madrasa students, and marginalized Kapikulu soldiers joining the ranks of the rebellion.
Wow, even the Kapikulu, what the heck?
Sheikh Bedreddin's rebellion posed a serious challenge to the authority of Sultan Mehmed I during a period when the leader of the Ottomans was trying to reunite the scattered pieces of his father's former realm. A military response led by Grand Vizier Bayezid Pasha and the Sultan's eldest son, Shahzada Murad, was quickly launched against the rebelling regions in Anatolia, and in a short but indiscriminately bloody campaign, all resistance was crushed. Meanwhile, Mehmed launched his own military response against Bedreddin, who was stationed in Dobruja, and won a quick victory over the rebels that saw him capture the rebel leader. After a one-sided trial held in Ceres, Sheikh Bedreddin was hung alongside his followers in a show of Ottoman supremacy to the broader region. The first civil revolt in Ottoman history resulted in the Ottoman regime cracking down on religious orders throughout the empire, with Edirne making a direct effort to silence dissenting voices of religious judges and leaders in the Balkans and Anatolia.
This is interesting.
During this period that a ghost of the past from the Ottoman interregnum reared its ugly head when the last son of Bayezid, Mustafa Çelebi, made his bid for the throne. Being captured alongside his father during the aftermath of the Battle of Ankara, the young
What the heck are the Timurids doing? Ow! Look at them! Sick! They're thick!
Ottoman prince had spent the better part of the last decade in the Timurid capital of Samarkand before deciding to...
Timurids are just chilling!
First arriving in Trebizond, Mustafa travelled to the courts of the Jandarid and Karamanid Beyliks to seek military and political support against Mehmed. Then, with the help of the Venetians, the youngest son of Bayezid sailed to Ottoman Bulgaria and called on the help of the local Muslim governors and Christian leaders in the region to support his war effort. The former ruler of the Aydinids, Junayd Bey, who had been the governor of Nicopolis since his defeat to Mehmed back in 1414, opened his doors to the rebel prince, and the pair began mustering troops in Ottoman Thessaly.
Oh, what?
Mehmed was distracted with the Bedreddin rebellion.
Bro! This is supposed to be how Constantinople survived an Ottoman siege. We are 12 minutes in, and I still haven't got my question answered.
Old Spice Gentleman Super Hydration Body Wash.
However, upon hearing the return of Mustafa Çelebi, the Ottoman Sultan started a propaganda campaign against his younger brother by proclaiming him as an impostor and a false son of Bayezid, as he was a relatively unknown figure by most in Ottoman society. After suppressing Bedreddin's rebellion in Dobruja, Mehmed quickly marched on the mustering forces of Mustafa and defeated him in battle, which saw the rebel Ottoman prince and his followers seeking refuge in Byzantine-controlled Thessalonica. Sending out a petition to Emperor Emmanuel II, with whom he was on good terms, the Ottoman Sultan demanded the return of his rebellious brother immediately. In a classic example of Byzantine diplomacy, the Emperor of Constantinople instead offered Mehmed to exile Mustafa and his supporters to the island of Lemnos in return for a yearly tribute of 300,000 Ottoman akçe. Knowing he could not afford to be heavy-handed with Byzantium due to the economically uncertain state he found himself in, Mehmed accepted Manuel's terms and returned to Edirne.
Good on you. Even when you're small, at least still got some brains. Eastern Roman Empire.
In the spring of 1421, while on a hunting expedition near the lush forests of Bursa, the 35-year-old Sultan of the Ottomans fell off his horse and was severely paralyzed.
Oh! Oh! Oh my god! How hard must have you fell to get paralyzed? Oh, that must have hurt. That must have hurt bad. Oh.
Palace, and knowing that his days were numbered, Mehmed ordered for his eldest son, Shahzada Murad, who was the governor of Amasya, to come to the former capital city at once to swiftly secure the Ottoman throne from him. However, the Ottoman Sultan, who had received over 40 battle wounds over 24 battles in the last 20 years, succumbed to injuries before his son's arrival.
Damn!
The second founder of the
What? How in the world, bro? How bad was that fall? No, I'm curious.
Ottoman state due to his efforts during the interregnum and his reign of stabilization. Sultan Mehmed I would become one of the most respected members of the House of Osman in future generations. Against all odds, the former Ottoman monarch had managed to pick up the scattered pieces of his father's realm from the Battle of Ankara and rebuild a state that was once again in control of its own destiny. For over 42 days, the death of the Sultan was kept a secret by Grand Vizier Bayezid Pasha and his personal staff, as the fears of civil war circulated in the imperial palace. In an unusual series of events, Mehmed's body was put in a litter in order to hide the stench of his decaying body, and during the days in which audiences were held, state officials dressed their former sultan in his imperial regalia and hid behind his cloak to simulate the sultan stroking his beard and moving his arms.
That is disgusting! What?
It was only with the arrival of the 17-year-old Murad to the former Ottoman capital
that is so nasty,
and
bro.
his accession to the throne that the news of Mehmed's death was released to the wider public. The ascension of Sultan Murad II during the spring of 1421 came during a period in which there were many competing claimants to the Ottoman throne. Mustafa Çelebi and his supporters were still in exile on the Byzantine island of Lemnos. Orhan Çelebi, the grandson of Süleyman Çelebi from the Ottoman interregnum, resided in Constantinople, while the future fates of Mehmed I's other three sons, Shahzadis Mustafa, Mahmud and Yusuf, were up in the air.
That is a lot
The practice of
of heirs.
by Ottoman monarchs had already been institutionalized by the 15th century, and thus the former Ottoman Sultan had taken precautions against it by appointing his second eldest son, Mustafa, to the faraway governorship of Isparta, while his younger sons, Mahmud and Yusuf, were transferred to the protection of Constantinople. The premature death of Mehmed I also coincided with the deterioration of Ottoman-Byzantine relations, as by 1421, the ailing 71-year-old Manuel II had given control of many of the functions of the state to his eldest son and co-emperor, John VIII, who was more war-hawkish towards Edirne. With political uncertainty surrounding Murad's ascension, Byzantium launched the first salvo in open hostilities by releasing Mustafa Çelebi and Junayd Bey from their exile on Lemnos, as the Ottoman claimant promised the Gallipoli Peninsula to Constantinople in return for military assistance against Murad. By the fall of 1421, Gallipoli and large parts of Ottoman Thrace quickly fell to the rebel prince, while the Karamanids used the occasion of Ottoman instability to reoccupy Agadir, Akşehir and Beyşehir. As Murad II was in Bursa, busy recruiting an army for the upcoming wars, his Grand Vizier Bayezid Pasha, who was already stationed in Edirne, met the forces of Mustafa near the village of Susladera near the Thracian Aegean coast. Nonetheless, due to a series of mass defections of his Capiculu ranks to the rebel prince, the Ottoman Grand Vizier was captured and beheaded on the insistence of Junayd Bey.
Nah, bro. He got treated like cartel. He got that cartel treatment. He got that cartel treatment, bro.
Upon his victory,
bro.
Mustafa Çelebi entered the Ottoman capital of Edirne and proclaimed himself as Sultan of Rumelia in front of roaring crowds. Many Ottoman peasants of the local region, and many in the ranks of the Capiculu, had felt alienated by the pro-Turkoman policies of Mehmed I and his brutal suppression of Bedreddin's rebellion, and so favoured his alleged younger brother Mustafa instead of his son Murad.
What?
However, almost immediately after his initial victory, the newly crowned rebel sultan made a multitude of political miscalculations. He first reneged on his promise of ceding the Gallipoli Peninsula to Constantinople, and then began an unpopular invasion of the Anatolian territories under Murad's control. By January of 1422, Mustafa's 17,000-strong army began to besiege Bursa, much to the annoyance of his Capiculu contingent, who instead wished to be stationed in the Balkans and not fight in Anatolia. With Junayd Bey abandoning him to reclaim his former domains around Smyrna and losing fiscal assistance from Constantinople, Mustafa's army began mass defecting to Murad, which resulted in the latter efficiently routing the former's army near the town of Ulubat. With Sultan Murad hotly pursuing him into Europe and effectively losing his entire army during the military campaign, the rebel sultan retreated back to Edirne and collected the Ottoman treasury to make a last stand in Wallachia. However, Mustafa Çelebi, the last living son of the Thunderbolt, was captured by Murad's agents on his journey north and was later executed, thus putting an end to the Ottoman Civil War.
So much for that.
With the death of Mustafa Çelebi, Sultan Murad II turned his full attention and wrath on the Byzantines for instigating the recent civil war in the first place, officially declaring war on Constantinople. While regional Ottoman marcher lords swiftly seized Nicomedia and Byzantine settlements in Thessaly, Murad and his new Grand Vizier, Jandali Ibrahim Pasha, began the dual sieges of Constantinople and Thessalonica. Despite his youth, Murad had already gained much-needed military experience during his father's reign and the recent Ottoman Civil War, so the young sultan was determined to follow in the footsteps of his grandfather by besieging the capital of the Romans. For 63 days, Murad II rained hell upon Constantinople, as for the first time, cannons and other explosives were used to breach the Theodosian walls.
Dog, I want y'all to think about this. The Roman Empire lived to see cannons, bruh. You know how old Rome is? You know how old Rome is? You know when Rome was founded? Like, Rome was a republic at first, yeah. But then it transformed into an empire. Dude, the fact that it lived to see cannons, it's wild. It's
an eyewitness
insane, bro.
John Cananos tells how the Sultan built an immense rampart of earth from the Sea of Marmara to the Golden Horn. From this, his troops discharged volleys of fire and stones from catapults against and over the land walls, and thus large parts of the suburbs of the capital were burnt down. A much revered imam in the Ottoman camp called Sheikh Bukhari, who claimed descent from the Prophet Muhammad, had foretold that Constantinople would fall on the 24th of August, and so the main Ottoman assault was therefore made on that day. A long and bitter battle for possession of the walls followed. However, the determined defenders of the city proved steadfast in their battlements as they
attributes the Ottoman failure to a miracle by citing the appearance of St. Mary's silhouette on the walls of the demoralized besiegers. The cope
repulsed wave after wave of Ottoman attacks on the walls. While Murad was occupied with Constantinople, developments coming out of Anatolia would force him to lift the siege of the Byzantine capital. The Sultan's younger half-brother, the 13-year-old Shahzada Mustafa, better known in Ottoman historiography as Little Mustafa, had revolted and seized Nicaea with the military assistance of the Jandarid, Karamanid and Gurmianid beyliks. The Sultan's other two younger brothers, Shahzadis Mahmud and Yusuf, were also released into Anatolia by Manuel II in an attempt to stir up even more civil strife in the region. Lastly,
that's crazy,
had recaptured Smyrna and once more re-established the Aydinid Beylik. With his eastern holdings in open anarchy and little progress being made to breach the Theodosian walls, the Sultan of the Ottomans abandoned his siege on Constantinople and crossed into Anatolia. Catching Little Mustafa off guard, Murad swiftly seized Nicaea and executed his rebel half-brother before also capturing and detaining his other two younger brothers, Mahmud and Yusuf, in Bursa. The pair would die upon a plague outbreak in the former Ottoman capital in 1429. Following his war effort against the Turkic beyliks of Anatolia, many of which supported Little Mustafa's rebellion, Murad invaded and vassalized the Jandarids once more, with
again and again and again.
Heir apparent of the beylik. while he himself married the daughter of Isfendiyar Bey, Hatice Halime Hatun. Meanwhile, with Mehmed II Bey's sudden death during his siege on Antalya against the Turka Beylik, his eldest son and presumed heir, Ibrahim II Bey, took control of the Karamanid throne and resumed peace talks with Murad. In return for Agadir, Akshehir and Beyshehir, the new Karamanid ruler married another sister of the Ottoman Sultan, Ilaldi Sultan Hatun, and peace between Edirne and Konya was once again re-established. Being childless, the ruler of the Gemayanids, Yakub II Bey, surrendered his domains to Murad, while Menteşe and the Teke Beyliks were fully annexed into the Ottoman Sultanate. Lastly, Junayd Bey, the former ruler of the Aydinids, who had defied Ottoman rule for over 2 decades, had been defeated by the local Ottoman governors of the region in a partnership with the Genoese and was beheaded by 1425.
Bro, I swear it's the cartel treatment. What is with the Ottomans and giving people cartel treatment? If you don't know what I mean by cartel treatment, I mean chopping their heads off.
Complete annexation of the established Aydinid Beylik. Within the first 18 months of his reign, Murad II had impressively managed to crush 2 significant rebellions, conduct a large siege of Constantinople, and reclaim parts of Anatolia.
Yeah, bro, Ottoman's looking thick.
Only time would tell if he would be worthy of carrying the banner of his forefathers, or better yet, parading those said banners deep inside of Europe. In the next episode of our series on the early history of the Ottomans, we will look through the early years of Sultan Murad II's reign, and a renewed interest by Edirne in conducting wars of conquest in Europe. To ensure you don't miss that, make sure you are subscribed and have pressed the bell button. Please consider liking, subscribing, commenting and sharing, it helps immensely. Recently, we have started releasing weekly Patreon and YouTube member exclusive content. Consider joining their ranks via the link in the description.
Elven armies are the first. What the? Okay. They do mythical stuff too. What the heck? Okay. Anyways, look, y'all, you made it all the way to the end of the video. Go subscribe, okay? Oh, and you should go join my channel membership. 99 cents per month. All right, guys. My channel is growing steadily over time, and eventually, I got other stuff to do in my life. All right. So right now, I'm like doing suggestions for y'all. Cool, great. I can do it right now, but over time, that's gonna get harder and harder. So I really do advise you, if you can, 99 cents a month, just join the channel membership so that I can do your suggestions faster, much more faster. Right now, I'm still pretty small. All right, I ain't got like crazy amounts of subscribers right now. So right now, it's not really. It wouldn't like hurt if you like suggest something right now. I'll be able to do it within the span of 2 weeks. Even then, that's still kind of long. Anyways, like the video so that it stays on the algorithm. And thank you for watching.